On the third day of rain, they had killed so many crabs inside the house that Pilayo had to cross his drenched courtyard and throw them into the sea. Because the newborn child had a temperature all night and they thought it was due to the stench. The light was so weak at noon that when Pilayo was coming back to the house after throwing away the crabs, it was hard for him to see what it was that was moving and groaning in the rear of the courtyard.
Who is that? Is there someone in the courtyard? Oh, it's an old sick and dirty man. He has a large wings in his body. What creature is that?
He had to go very close to see that it was an old man, a very old man, lying face down in the mud, who in spite of his tremendous efforts, couldn't get up, impeded by his innermost wings. He was dressed like a rag picker. His huge buzzard wings, dirty and half-plucked, were forever entangled in the mud. Then they dared speak to him, and he answered in an incomprehensible dialect with a strong sailor's voice. Then they called in a neighbor woman who knew everything about life and death to see him.
He is an angel. He must have been coming for the child, but the poor fellow is so old that the rain knocked him down. Your son is sick, right? He is here to take your son to heaven. You should kill him.
After consulting a neighbor woman, Pilayo and his wife Elisenda concluded that the old man must be an angel who had tried to come and take their sick child to heaven. On the following day, everyone knew that a flesh and blood angel was held captive in Pilayo's house. The neighbor woman tells Pilayo that he should club the angel to death, but Pilayo and Elisenda take pity on him. Especially a short time afterward, the child woke up without a fever and with a desire to eat. Pilayo and Elisenda kept the old man in their chicken coop. But when they went out into the courtyard with the first light of dawn, they found the whole neighborhood in front of the chicken coop having fun with the angel, tossing him things to eat through the openings in the wire like a circus animal. Father Gonzaga, the local priest, arrived before 7 o'clock, alarmed at the strange news.
I heard people saying you have an angel in your place. May I see him and talk?
When Father Gonzaga went into the chicken coop and said good morning to the old man in Latin, the old man only lifted his antiquarian eyes and murmured something in his dialect. Then the priest concludes and tells the people,
That old man with wings? He is not even an angel. That old man doesn't even understand and speak Latin. He barely talked and is shabby. He was too much human. He had an unbearable smell of the outdoors. The backside of his wings was strewn with parasites, and his main feeders had been mistreated by terrestrial winds, and nothing about him matches the qualities of angels.
The priest reminded them that the devil had a bad habit of making use of cardinal tricks in order to confuse the unwary. Nevertheless, he promised to write a letter to his bishop so that the latter would write his primate to the supreme pontiff in order to get the final verdict from the highest courts. Despite Father Gonzaga's efforts, word of the old man's existence soon spreads, and pilgrims come from all over to seek advice and healing from him. One woman comes because she'd been counting her heartbeats since childhood and couldn't continue counting. An insomniac visits also because he claims that the stars in the night sky are too noisy. The crowd eventually grows so large.
What Father Gonzaga says has no effect at all. People are keep on coming to that old man. They want to see him and they want to be cured of their illnesses.
What if we will ask money from people who keep on coming here? Would it be great if we ask payment from them?
Sure, that's a great idea.
Elisenda begins to charge admission of 5 cents, for in less than a week, the couple had been crammed their rooms with money and the line of pilgrims waiting their turn to enter still reached beyond the horizon. For the most part, the old man ignores the people, even when they pluck his feathers and throw stones at him to make him stand up, not until when they burned his side with an iron for branding steers, for he had been motionless for so many hours that they thought he was dead. He awoke with a start, ranting in his Ermatic language and with tears in his eyes, and he flapped his wings a couple of times, which brought on a whirlwind of chicken dung and lunar dust and a gale of panic to the people. From then on, they were careful not to annoy him. Father Gonzaga does his best to restrain the crowd, even as he waits for the church opinion on the old man. The mail from Rome showed no sense of urgency. They spent their time finding out if the prisoner had a navel, if his dialect had any connection with Aramaic, how many times he could fit on the head of a pin, or whether he wasn't just a Norwegian with wings. The crowd starts to disperse when a traveling freak show arrives in the village. People flock to hear the story of the so-called Spider Woman.
She's so scary. A woman who has a strange body. She is a frightful tarantula. She is the size of a ram and with the head of a sad maiden.
What creature is that? She's so strange!
I just turned like this suddenly after disobeying my parents. While I was still a child, I had sneaked out of my parents' house to go to a dance. And while I was coming back through the woods, after having danced all night without permission, a fearful thunderclap rent the sky in two, and through the crack came the lightning bolt of brimstone that changed me into a spider.
Pelayo and Elisenda have nevertheless grown quite wealthy from the admission fees Elisenda had charged.
Many years had passed since that old man with a large wings came.
That old man gave us wealth as we earned. With the money we saved, we had built a 2-story mansion with balconies and gardens, and we even built this high netting so that the crabs would not get in during the winter. And with these iron bars on the windows, I know that the angels would not get in.
Yeah, you're right. We can really make money from him. How great is our life? I stop working and get an instant money.
The old man continues to stay with them, still in the chicken coop, for several years as the little boy grows older. When the chicken coop eventually collapses, the old man moves into the adjacent shed, but he often wanders from room to room inside the house, much to Elisenda's annoyance. The old man could scarcely eat, and his antiquarian eyes had also become so foggy that he went about bumping into posts. They thought that the end is near for the old man. All he had left were the bare cannula of his last feathers. And yet, he not only survived his worst winter, but he seemed improved with the first sunny days. At the beginning of December, some large, stiff feathers began to grow on his wings, the feathers of a scarecrow. He was quite careful that no one should notice his changes, that no one should hear the sea shanties that he sometimes sung under the stars. One morning, Elisenda was cutting some bunches of onions for lunch when a wind that seemed to come from the high seas blew into the kitchen. Then, she went to the window and caught the angel in his first attempts at flight. Later, the old man stretches his wings and takes off into the air. The old man flies freely until it became an imaginary dot on the horizon of the sea.